The story of the Polynesian people who crossed a great ocean to settle a far-flung speck of land in the Pacific is one of the great adventure sagas of all time. And the same spirit of adventure still calls us to Hawaii. Welcome to Hawaii, the Pacific paradise. In our exploration, we will look behind the stunning scenery, behind the tourist destinations, to find the hidden treasures of these marvelous islands. The Hawaiian Islands were first settled by Polynesians sailing from the southern Pacific. Located north of the equator, the Hawaiian archipelago is the most isolated on Earth. The 8 main islands, once a kingdom, are now a sovereign state of the United States of America. On the island of Hawaii, we witness a live volcano and explore an ancient place of refuge. On Maui, we ascend to the summit of Haleakala for a sunrise spectacle. In Kauai, we are dazzled by the Grand Canyon of the Pacific and the splendor of the Nepali coast. On Molokai, we see the legacy of Father Damien, the leper priest. On Oahu, we contemplate the Arizona Memorial and visit a royal palace. We begin our Hawaiian Odyssey on the island of Oahu, which means the gathering place. It is that and more. Of all the islands, Oahu has the best harbor and the richest history. It is the political powerhouse of Hawaii. It has Waikiki by day and a glittering promenade by night. It has the Aloha Tower and Chinatown. It is the capital in every way. Though it ranks third in size among the islands, it holds more than 3/4 of Hawaii's population. The black and gold statue of King Kamehameha, first ruler of a unified Hawaii, is a reminder of Hawaii's rich royal history. Nearby, we find the only royal palace ever to stand on American soil, Iolani Palace. In 1879, King Kalakaua wanted a setting proper for a monarch. 3 years and $350,000 later, this palace was completed. The style was called American Florentine. It has been restored to look as it did when Hawaii's royalty last lived in it. Historically, the building has been a royal palace, the capital of the Republic of Hawaii, the capital of the Territory of Hawaii, and until 1969, the Hawaiian state capital. This pavilion was built for King Kalakaua's coronation. Today, it's a bandstand. At noon every Friday, there's a free concert in the park. It's a tradition that goes back more than a century.
Thank you very much. Of course, the Washington Post march by John Philip Sousa.
And when the sea is dark and stormy, out in the surf you find her there.
I think one of the most important aspects of the difference between our Hawaiian band and many other bands in the United States is that it was founded by the royalty of Hawaii when we were a kingdom back in 1836 through King Kamehameha III. And it's been every royal individual from the time of King Kamehameha III down to Queen Liliuokalani, whose statue we're standing right in front right now, who has supported the Royal Hawaiian Band and funded us, and they've been our patrons.
He is placing a lei of purple cornflowers, the old queen's favorite, on a statue of Queen Liliuokalani. Indeed, Queen Liliuokalani made music. She was the Hawaiian Kingdom's last monarch. A group of American businessmen backed by U.S. military overthrew her. Placed her under house arrest. She was imprisoned in her own palace. Her legacy to the Hawaiian people and to the world is a song that she wrote.
Until we meet again.
This stone church was built by King Kamehameha III using stones quarried underwater by thousands of Hawaiians. They worked 20 feet underwater, pulling the 1,400 slabs of coral, some weighing 1,000 pounds each. It was finished in 1842. Today, Japanese tourists love to get married here. On the church grounds stands the tomb of King Lunalilo, the only Hawaiian monarch who willed not to be laid to rest with his predecessors in the royal mausoleum. There are other graves of interest in Oahu, the burial plots of those zealous New England missionaries who built these houses and gave the Hawaiians the Bible, the alphabet, and the mumu. Chinatown is still thriving. Exotic foodstuffs, chow mein parlors, noodle factories, purveyors of herbal medicine. Today, the district is a first step for the new immigrants, such as the Vietnamese. Not many Hawaiian Chinese reside in Chinatown anymore, but historic Chinatown remains their focal point. All of Oahu heads for Chinatown on Chinese New Year. Say Hawaii, and many people think Waikiki. It's always bustling, a busy place. It hosts half the state's accommodation, and the array of faces on the beach attest to the international character of tourism here. The Royal Hawaiian Hotel is here, cushioned by tropical gardens and golden beach. A pink princess lost in a forest of high-rises. When it opened with much fanfare in 1927, it became the focus for celebrities who flocked to Waikiki to enjoy the Hawaiian paradise. For many tourists, past and present, Waikiki opened the door to Hawaii's sport of kings, surfing. In Hawaii, fast-moving waves swell, slap the coral reefs, then move towards shore with unleashed power. Surfing became Hawaii's entry into the world of sports. It was the ancient Hawaiians, men and women, who perfected surfing, and Hawaiians who introduced it to the rest of the world. Today, surfers flock to Hawaii in pursuit of the perfect wave. At the beginning of the 20th century, Waikiki was a quiet beach, a palm-lined golden strand curving to Diamond Head. It had been a royal fishing ground. Now, ragtail boys swam here and wanted never to get out of the water. When in 1901, the Moana Hotel opened, it opened onto opportunities for these aquatic youngsters who, as bottom-of-the-heap Hawaiians, had little future. So they gave canoe rides, they taught surfing, they played the ukulele, and they sang beautifully. They took catchy nicknames: Scooter Boy, Tough Bill, Hawkshaw, Splash, Turkey Love, and Laughing John. Hawaii's Beach Boy era ran from the turn of the century to the late 50s. It wasn't a job being a beach boy. It was a lifestyle. Maybe that's why the world insisted on referring to these grown men as boys. They played for a living. But there emerged a man who changed the world's perception of a beach boy. From something as frothy as sea foam to something as deep and noble as the sea itself. Duke Paua Kahanamoku was born in 1890, a child of the sea. His family taught him that they'd come from the sea, and to the sea they would return. Years of rough swimming and canoeing had turned him into a superb athlete. He had the long arms and powerful legs of a born swimmer. They said he had feet for fins. No, they said he had fins for feet. When he was clocked swimming the 100-yard freestyle faster than any human being in the world, he was entered in the 1912 Olympics in Stockholm. The crowd cheered as Duke received, from the Swedish king, his first Olympic gold medal. When he wasn't winning Olympic medals, Duke was on the beach. He'd say, "Out of the water, I'm nothing." He was acknowledged as the world's fastest swimmer and foremost surfer. In 4 Olympic Games over 20 years, he had won 5 medals. Elected sheriff of Honolulu, he became Hawaii's unofficial ambassador. He even got the Queen Mother of the British royal family to dance the hula. To learn more about Hawaii's colorful characters, we'll travel to Honolulu's Bishop Museum for a first-hand glimpse of Hawaii's history and culture. Here is housed the world's largest collection of Hawaiiana. The museum itself is a memorial to Princess Bernice Bishop. First-time visitors to Hawaii soon learn that there's much more to Oahu than Honolulu. 15 miles east is Sea Life Park. Here, 4,000 sea specimens, fish, crustaceans, sea turtles live together in a 300,000-gallon aquarium. And there are shows starring sea creatures of all types. Sparkling Hanauma Bay, it is the cone of an extinct volcanic crater that caved in and filling with seawater became the world's largest fishbowl. This park is an undersea preserve for sea life. A palm-lined beach is the threshold to an aquarium made by nature. Snorkeling is encouraged because the fish are snorkeler-friendly. There are 600 species of native Hawaiian fish, and here you can see many of them close up. The place is so popular that on Tuesday the park is closed so that the fish can get a rest. A film buff's note: Elvis Presley made Blue Hawaii, the first of his 3 Hawaiian location films in Hanauma. Presley loved the islands. Were there any truth to the rumor that Presley is still alive and well? He'd probably be living in Hawaii. On windward Oahu, visitors brave chilly gusts for turns on the Nuuanupali Lookout. It offers a breathtaking view. It was here, the Nuuanupali, that Kamehameha the Great drove Oahu's defenders. Many jumped or were pushed to their deaths. The island's north shore is famous for its surf. On the north side of Waimea River is rain-soaked Waimea Falls, For many years it was a popular attraction, where cliff divers would plunge into the handsome pool at the base of the falls. The area went bankrupt and was purchased by the county, and now the Waimea Valley Audubon Center preserves thousands of rare species and offers self-guided tours and nature walks on the beautiful grounds. The big cultural attraction on the island is nearby Polynesian Cultural Village, in which the folkways of the people of the Pacific Rim, Tongans, Samoans, Tahitians, are relived. These young performers are students at Hawaii's Brigham Young University. On Oahu, Pearl Harbor draws its share of visitors. No one leaves unmoved. This park draws great numbers of visitors from all over the world. Indeed, it is more than a park. It is the site of an act of war that changed the course of history. Kathy Billings, superintendent, knows.
In the United States, this site affected our history more than probably any other site in the United States. And so people come here and want to experience as much as they can what occurred on December 7th, 1941.
It is truly unique among parks. It grew out of the surprise attack on the naval base at Pearl Harbor. The memorialized USS Arizona, now over a half a century at the harbor's bottom, is still a commissioned vessel in the United States Navy. This park is unique because both the Navy and the Park Service are its custodians. The memorial is about a half-mile from the Visitors Center on shore. A structure of gleaming white concrete, it spans the hulk of the battleship, which lives in 40 feet of water. No part of the memorial touches the ship. It's a place for contemplation, for remembering. Warren Bernhoff remembers. He's a Pearl Harbor survivor.
As a Pearl Harbor survivor, we have an organization out here. Very few guys in it, obviously. And we volunteer to come down here to answer questions, give talks to school kids. Sometimes we visit schools and give talks. We just can't forget Pearl Harbor.
Pearl Harbor survivors that I work with are the most wonderful people, the most emotional people I have ever met and had the experience to work with.
What does Warren remember in that December morning in 1941?
I was on a big tugboat, and we were already out working that morning. We had a job. We were meeting a ship coming in to take a barge away from it, so we were all awake and down the channel there behind me. And this flight of planes came over that mountain range over there. And we couldn't identify them. They were just little specks.
Those specks were an armada of Japanese bombers, dive bombers, and Zeros.
When they circled around by Battleship Row out there where the Arizona is, they turned.
The USS Oklahoma is the first ship to be sunk. Now, from a second wave of planes, there's a deadly bomb strike on the Arizona. Its crew trapped. The ship explodes with volcanic force and sinks within 9 minutes. The harbor is ablaze with oil spill. 21 ships are sunk or damaged. Today, Pearl Harbor is calm. But the attack on December 7th, 1941 changed both the United States and Japan, and indeed the whole world, forever. This platform was where the Arizona was moored when the attack began. From the Memorial Bridge, a visitor can view the rusted remains of this graveyard ship, the final resting place of 1,177 seamen, the greatest loss of life on any ship in the history of the United States Navy. The memorial ends at a shrine wall, where the name and rank of each of the men who perished are preserved in marble.
I came back here, after I was out of everything. I feel more at home out here. Plus I got shipmates out there. And I didn't have to really know them personally. As long as they were servicemen, they're my shipmates.
A broad expanse of green marked by graves, 28,000 of them. This is Oahu's famous Punch Bowl, the National Cemetery of the Pacific. But the most beloved hero buried here wasn't a soldier in World War II. He's the war correspondent Ernie Pyle. Again and again, Pyle had risked his life so that the readers back home knew just what their boys were going through. He fell by machine gun fire near Okinawa. Many of the Nisei, Japanese Americans who went for broke in the 100th Infantry Battalion and the 442nd, the most decorated units in American history, lie here as well. 72 miles west of Oahu lies Kauai. Kauai is the leftover of an ancient volcano and the oldest of the main islands. It holds a special place in Hawaii's history. Hawaiian myth says Pele first lived on this island. Kauai was the first stop on Captain Cook's famous first voyage. He crossed the bar at Waimea on the west shore and reaped provision from the island's rich agricultural bounty. Rightly, it's called the Garden Isle. Sugarcane first succeeded in Kauai's rich lava soil. It's no longer grown extensively, but there are bumper crops of taro, a traditional Hawaiian food. Wet, verdant, Hanale's taro patches are a wildlife refuge. Shelter to the threatened Hawaiian stilt. Rugged, wild, battered by surging seas, this is Kilauea Point. Built on a rocky thrust, the Kilauea Lighthouse stands as a bastion against torrential blasts and the ocean's onslaughts. It commands sweeping views of the sea in both directions. The ancient Polynesians were the Vikings of the Pacific. In their seaworthy outriggers, they had voyaged bravely from the Marquesas Islands and Tahiti to the Hawaiian Islands. They had no charts and no compass. They navigated by the stars. As the seas lashed and buffeted them, they chanted to their gods, "Show me thy star." These Polynesians became the early Hawaiians. From promontories overlooking the sea, they would burn oil-rich kukui nuts in fire lamps to guide their seagoing fishermen and warriors safely back to land. Stand by the kukui, they would charge, and keep it burning. That tradition still shines from the Kilauea Lighthouse. Built in 1912 and manned by the Coast Guard, it was the first light of Hawaii to be sighted by ships from the Orient. Today it boasts state-of-the-art electronic guidance systems. These are the new guiding stars. Now, under the jurisdiction of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Kilauea Point is a seabird refuge. Gliding tropic birds, albatrosses, The waters pounding the point are home to the Pacific sea turtle, and in winter, the migrating humpback whale. At Kilauea Point, the kukui is still burning for the preservation of the island's wildlife. Kauai's emblem is a spouting horn, a lava tube through which the rushing surf erupts like a geyser. Kauai is also the island of the barking sands. If one slides down these dunes, a sloping mixture of pulverized coral and sand, the friction creates a sound like that of a barking dog. It is an island of the Menehune, legendary elves who completed huge engineering projects, such as this irrigation ditch of hand-hewn rock, supposedly in a single night. It is the Hawaiian backlot that Hollywood travels to when paradise is called for. South Pacific, King Kong, Uncommon Valor, Thornbirds, Fantasy Island, and Jurassic Park are just a few of the titles filmed here. Great tracts of wilderness are being preserved in a number of state parks. Where the Wailua River meets the sea, there is a spirit or a sense of spiritual calm. Ancient sacred sites grace its banks. Wailua is a state park named after the river, which is the only navigable river in any of the Hawaiian Islands. Popular excursion boats take you 2 miles upstream, while you're regaled with down-home Hawaiiana, island melodies, and energetic hulas. The riverboat docks at Wailua's stellar attraction, Fern Grotto, a colossal cavern, cool and fragrant. Its damp walls lush with ferns.
Some of the people living in the valley here bring up the best of their crop, left it in the cave, and that was for the blessings for next year's crop. The water coming up the top here comes from a natural spring. Spring is about a mile inland, flows all year round, never stops. In the old days, we had a lot more water to this fall. Today, most of the water has been taken by the sugar workers, and this is all they need. People come from all over the world to get married here. We're weddings here just about every day. Funny thing about it all is you'll never see us Hawaiians getting married here. No way. We go to Vegas. The odds are better. No, just kidding.
Wailua, a postcard memory for the visitor. There is more scenery variety on this little island than in whole regions of the American mainland. A bird's eye view of the island by helicopter is spectacular. Granted to a first-time visitor to Kauai, Waimea Canyon State Park is not the sort of Hawaiian vista that one might expect. A colossal gorge, 6 million years old. On an upflow of air currents, the tropic birds soar. Yes, this is the Grand Canyon of the Pacific. Visitors often call it Koki. Hawaiians will correct them. Kokee, they will say. Kokee. Parks, lodge, and museum are people-friendly. The museum houses exhibits on the geology and plants and animals of the island's wilderness. But this is down-home Hawaii. Distant bird song is drowned out by rooster crows. The fowl you see strutting in the park meadow are no barnyard chickens. Hawaiians call them moa. These fowl live only in the wild and only on Kauai. The ancestors of these fowl were brought to this island by the first Polynesians to settle here. It is from jungle fowl such as these that some 1,500 years ago, human beings domesticated chickens. Kokee entrance is entwined with nature trails and roads, some easy and well-marked, others more rugged, particularly if it should be raining. Native plants are sometimes tagged for identification. Native Hawaiian birds are declining, but in Kokee, they stand a better chance of survival. The mongoose, imported to the islands to kill rats, developed into a rampant killer. Luckily, the weaselly mongoose never got as far as Kauai. The northern cardinal was introduced to these islands, but the amaki is native. So is the apapani, birds prized by Hawaiians for their feathers. These birds favor the nectar of the ohia tree. The native nene is listed as an endangered species. This close relative of the Canadian goose is Hawaii's state bird. Kokee Road winds to Kalalau Lookout. The view from here is famous, but often fogged over. Then the curtain of mist rises, revealing the Nepali coast. Moss-green mountains plunging 4,000 feet to the sea. This has been called the most breathtaking vista in the world. An adventurous way of seeing Nepali State Park is from seaworthy craft, such as the tough twin-engine rubber craft. Once, thousands of native Hawaiians dwelled on this rugged coast. You roll with the wind and the sea, bobbing, skidding over waves. Curving into the sea caves, such as Puff the Magic Dragon Cavern. Kauai's Nepali State Park, a visit you'll remember. Lanai, 70 miles from Oahu, is sixth in size of the 8 main islands. Ghosts kept the island of Lanai from early settlement. At least that's the legend. Lanai was haunted. Only ghosts lived here. Evil spirits. So the early Hawaiians shunned it. But roll away the legend, and one finds an exquisite island of pristine and deserted beaches. Pineapple became the ghost breaker. In the 19th century, enterprising haoles turned Lanai into the world's largest pineapple plantation. For many years, these islands produced 90% of America's pineapples, with Lanai in the lead. The pineapple was brought to the islands during the first Kamehameha's reign by a Spanish Johnny Appleseed. Today, no pineapple fields are being cultivated in Lanai. And Lanai's ghosts are friendlier now. But perhaps the spooky old legend keeps this mini paradise off the popular tourist treks. Keeps the resorts few and expensive, helping to preserve the untouched loveliness of this island. Molokai, shaped like a shoe, is just 37 miles long and 10 miles wide. It is rural, agricultural. Like most rural areas in the U.S., it is genuinely friendly. Hawaiian is taught in the schools and still spoken on the streets. Not many tourists come to Molokai, and those who do are willing to rough it for the joys of a Hawaiian vacation. One of the island's attractions is the Kapa'ua'iwa Coconut Grove. Here, King Kamehameha V commanded the planting of 1,000 coconut palms. It's beautiful at sunset. Another attraction are the dramatically unspoiled dunes at Molokai, and there's rarely another tourist footprint to be found in the sand. There are sandalwood pits on Molokai. During the last century, foreign traders destroyed whole forests of fragrant Hawaiian sandalwood. These pits, dug to simulate a boat, were used to measure the precious wood. Yet here in sparsely populated Molokai, there are still stands of sandalwood, forest rich in plants and trees native to these islands. Some of Hawaii's most spectacular scenery is found on Molokai. This is the Pali Coast, with its soaring green cliffs and plunging waterfalls. No roads lead to the leper colony, but determined visitors arrive by airplane, by mule, even by foot. Long before Molokai was called the Friendly Isle, its name would strike terror into the hearts of those who heard it. In the 1800s, diseases brought by outsiders, cholera, smallpox, even measles, drastically reduced the population of native Hawaiians. In the 1860s came the greatest scourge of all. Leprosy descended upon the Hawaiian population. Today it's called Hansen's disease, and there is a cure. But in the last half of the last century, human beings stood helpless against this most dreaded, disfiguring disease. The way in which the Hawaiian government treated the disease is echoed in the Old Testament. The leper shall cry, "Unclean, he is unclean, out of the camp shall his dwelling be." Hawaiian lepers were hunted down by bloodhounds and banished to the Kalaupapa Peninsula on this island of Molokai. Turbulent seas and unscalable cliffs formed a prison made by nature. Yes, prison, for then leprosy was treated as a sinful crime. This place was called a colony. In truth, it was a chaos. The government failed to enforce order, and no one dared come close to the lepers. Not doctors, not clergy. Today you can see proper graves, but in 1873 there were no decent burials. Since there was no cure, there was no hope, and no law. Then to these shores came a remarkable man, a Belgian of peasant stock named Joseph de Verster. Bred from faith and hard work, he is known to the world as Father Damien. Unlike other clergy, Damien came and lived at the colony for the rest of his life. These are among his few possessions: tools with which he built sturdy houses for the lepers, houses that kept out the endless rain and wind. He cleaned sores, He dug proper graves for the dead. He created community out of chaos. In spirit, he became one with the lepers. He strove to make them realize that God loved them too, as he loves all his creation. Over these grounds, the lepers made their way to Damien's church. Processions of the living dead, some on toeless feet, some hiding their sores with flowers. One day, after many years of Sundays and holy days, Damien walked to the altar rail and addressed his congregation as, "We lepers." He himself had contracted the disease. Now he was one with them, not only in spirit but in body. At age 49, he died. And was buried outside his leper's church at the colony. Because of this one man, the attitude towards leprosy in the Western world changed from persecution to compassion. The spirit of this man, this saint as many called him, is still here on the wild shores of Molokai. Today you can see the monument over what had been Damien's grave. In 1936, his body was exhumed and brought to Belgium. It is now entombed in the city of Louvain. You can see his church, St. Philomena's. Inside the church, you can see the pews to which the lepers limped and hobbled. You can see the holes in the floorboards that Damien bored to catch the constant draining from the lepers' lungs. You can see for yourself the haunting beauty of Molokai. Today, the colony's few victims of Hansen's disease live in Kalaupapa. It is against the law to photograph the lepers here. Their privacy is protected. Theirs is a town whose future is uncertain. There are no children here, only some wooden houses, a general store, a few churches, and a neglected graveyard. Damien is remembered. He had served all the lepers regardless of creed. His sacrifice turned persecution into compassion. In Hawaii, he is honored all over the islands as the martyr of Molokai. "100 miles southeast of Oahu, Maui is the Valley Isle, the state's second largest island. Once Maui was two islands, which are joined now by an isthmus created by erosion. In the past, sugarcane was king. Today, this train carries not sugarcane, but people to Lahaina Station. Lahaina is legendary. Whaling town, pleasure port for seamen, a small stretch of precious town frontage preserves the Lahaina of the mid-1800s, when thousands of whalers anchored their ships offshore. This is the old jail where rowdy whalers of that time were constrained. In this cemetery, Melville's cousin is buried, but most of Front Street is lined with souvenir shops and t-shirt outlets. Shopping malls, bistros, and bars have mushroomed all over Lahaina. The spirit of old Lahaina is found in this replica of a 19th century brig, the Carthaginian. Its cargo is an exhibit on the world of the whale. Whale watching is a long-running event in Lahaina. After summering in Alaska, humpbacked whales return to these waters to breed and give birth to their young. They arrive in early December, so do the whale watchers. On the other side of Maui, the 7 pools of Kipalulu, near Hana, were special to the Hawaiian people. A series of cascading waterfalls and fern-lined pools. The Hana area is a holdover of old Hawaii, taro patches, banana groves. Kamehameha the Great's first wife was born here. Even today, most of its residents are part Hawaiian. From Hana, sailing canoes skirt the rugged coast. Paddling hard and powered by wind, fiberglass descendants of the ancient wooden outriggers follow traditional sea paths. Racing the boats is hard work, exhilarating. These fast boats brave even the roughest seas. Outrigger canoe sailing keeps alive the tradition of the ancient Hawaiians. This same side of the island boasts Haleakala National Park. Before dawn, we are driving to the roof of the world, at least the ancient Hawaiian world, to the summit of a sleeping volcano, 10,023 feet above sea level. It is called Haleakala, meaning House of the Sun. A legend tells of the mischievous god Maui, who came to the summit and lassoed the sun with ropes, slowing its course so that the Hawaiian people might enjoy longer days. In driving from sea level to the 10,000-foot summit, we are passing through as many life zones as we would if we were driving from Mexico to Alaska. Carrie Buck, park ranger, tells us,
people come to Hawaii and they expect those balmy 85-degree temperatures. They're at the beach all day. And they kind of tend to forget that when you come to Haleakala National Park, you're also going to go from sea level to over 10,000 feet. And we need to be prepared for that as the visitor comes to the park. The visitor needs to be prepared for any kind of weather. It can be rainy, it can be snowing. We do get snow in the winter up here. And we have high winds. We've had winds in excess of 60 miles an hour.
Roughly 1 million visitors ascend the summit every year, some like pilgrims who've climbed their holy mountain, some robed in hotel blankets, some weatherproofed in polar fleece. They brave the chill, gale-like winds to experience the moment, the magic moment, when the light-giving sun rises over the roof of the world. A volcanic moonscape, this erosional depression, shaped by time, sloping to a depth of 3,000 feet. It is an active volcano. We haven't had an eruption for 200 years, but the potential is there. It is here, on these stark slopes, that there grows one of the Earth's rarest plants, the silver sword.
Our emblem is the silver sword, and the silver sword is a plant that is native to Hawaii, but it's only found here.
Once threatened with extinction, this plant is now protected and is making a remarkable comeback. This silver sword is blossoming. It blossoms only once in its entire lifetime. Some visitors are so eager to bicycle down from the 10,000-foot summit that they never see Haleakala's other side.
The park is a little over 28,000 acres. We have pristine rainforest. We have a heavy population of endangered endemic species. This is the only place they're ever going to be found anywhere in the world.
On the other side of Haleakala, the landscape is tropical. With an annual rainfall of 365 inches, its lava rock is quilted with rainforest. Guavas grow wild. Waterfalls fringed by ferns cascade from the cliffs. There are legendary natural pools and a seashore flecked with foam. This too is Haleakala. The island of Hawaii is 200 miles southeast of Oahu. It is the youngest of the Hawaiian chain. Since it is nearly twice the size of all the other islands combined, it is rightfully called the Big Island. It's also big in contrast. It produces the only commercially grown coffee in the United States, Kona coffee. At the same time, it provides the islands with most of their Christmas trees. It boasts beautiful beaches of black sand, tropical fern forests, and skiing on the lava slopes of Mauna Kea Peak. The air is so clear up here that observatories have some of the best viewing of the stars to be found in the world. It's cold. If you want to play in the snow, remember, there are no ski lifts. Techniques for getting down? Well, they vary. While hulas are being danced at the Hotel Luau's, Hawaiian cowboys might be rounding up cattle on Parker Ranch, which is huge, 3/4 the size of the island of Oahu. Cattle ranches had a big stake in Hawaii's history, hence Hawaiian cowboys named Paneolos. More than a century and a half ago, 3 Spanish-Mexican vaqueros were brought in from California to punch cattle. Paneolos is the way Españoles came to be pronounced in the islands. The Kona coast is becoming the island's tourist hub. The King Kamehameha Hotel offers a lively luau with pig barbecue in a pit, Polynesian style. On the hotel grounds, an authentically restored heiau, one of Kamehameha the Great's favorites. He died here in 1819. His bones were hidden to protect his mana. Nearby, also on the shores, is Ulihi Palace. The charming museum preserves a glimpse of Hawaiian royalty. The Kona coast has some of the best deep-sea fishing in the islands. World record catches of Pacific blue marlin, mahi-mahi, and tuna. Without our manufactured gear, the old Hawaiians were skilled fishermen. They fished with hooks made of bone, turtle, shell, and sometimes whale ivory. They spearfished. They used nets some 250 feet long. The bounty of the seas that sustained the ancient Hawaiians is still evident in a snorkeling trip off the coast of Hawaii. These waters are also home to spinner dolphin. They're very people-friendly. Watching them is an underwater thrill. The ancient Hawaiians used surfboards. Now, the sport of windsurfing is catching on. A marriage of surfboard to the sail. Although Hilo is the largest city on the island and the fourth largest in the state, it feels down home. It's a sugarcane town grown big. It spreads along the edge of Hilo Bay and up into the hills overlooking the water. The fiery heart of this astounding island is Hawaii Volcanoes National Park. Volcano watchers. They come to this park from mainland America and from Canada. They come from Europe. They come from Korea and Japan and the Philippines. What is this fascination with the world's most active volcanoes that draws them here? It is an opportunity to witness the very process of the Earth's creation. Hawaii, the Big Island, is getting bigger. It is the fastest growing outcrop of land on our planet. Two active volcanoes simmer here. They are the island's past and its future. Arcing gently on the horizon, Mauna Loa seems more mirage than mountain. Mauna Loa is the world's largest active volcano. When it erupted in 1984, it paved 16 square miles of land with lava in just 3 weeks. The park's second fire mountain is Kilauea. This oval-shaped depression, 2.5 miles wide, is not a crater. It is a huge caldera, created by the collapse of its summit. Since January 1983, Kilauea has been erupting continuously. Hawaiian volcanoes erupt not only from their upmost craters, they also erupt along rift zones. Fountains of lava spew hundreds of feet into the air. Lakes of lava overflow. One of nature's most dramatic events. Volcanoes National Park encompasses 229,000 acres of lava fields, fire pits, fumaroles, craters, and calderas. An 11-mile road circling the caldera leads to a number of craters. Volcano House, a hotel in the style of the Grand Hunting Lodge, is on the park grounds. It offers a rimside view of Kilauea. Volcano watchers have been drawn here for much longer than this place has been a park. Lord Byron was one, Mark Twain was another, and Franklin Delano Roosevelt was accommodated at the old Volcano House. But there were those volcano watchers who were dedicated as they were curious. Scientists. In 1912, Professor T.A. Jaeger of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology came here and founded an observatory. The nature of Hawaiian lava flows made his work relatively safe, and frequent eruptions made for the ideal laboratory. Marty Lane, park ranger, tells us,
just to my left here across the caldera, we have the Hawaiian Volcano Observatory, a very esteemed, distinguished group of scientists who carefully, closely, and continuously monitor these two volcanoes, Mauna Loa and Kilauea. Their seismometers pick up the movement of magma or molten rock underground before the volcano erupts.
Studies made here have contributed greatly to volcanology, even to its scientific vocabulary. Rough, scratchy lava is known by the Hawaiian word a'a. Smooth, rope-like lava is called pahoehoe. Every twist and turn of this huge island holds reminders of its origin. Dramatic C-shaped arches buttressing black lava cliffs. Trees that have been engulfed and burnt away, leaving bizarre shells of themselves in molded lava. Tunnels of lava, such as the Thurston lava tube, which is hundreds of feet long. An outer crust of lava hardens, making a conduit for molten lava to flow through. When the eruption stops, the molten lava drains away, leaving a hollow tunnel. Stretches of beach, of glistening black sand. But the eruptions that create new land for this island also destroy. And not all of them spew the slow-flowing rivers of lava that characterize Hawaii volcanoes. Steve Brantley, geologist.
What many people perhaps don't realize is that there are some eruptions that occur in Hawaii that can be very explosive and quite dangerous.
These footprints from 1790, imprinted on a pyroclastic surge that killed 80 Hawaiian warriors from a sudden eruption of hot ash, is a reminder of the potential. Lava flows have smothered miles of open highway, toppled trees, and deluged an entire housing subdivision, and destroyed a visitor center at Hawaii Volcanoes National Park. Not with fear did the ancient Hawaiians regard the power of these volcanoes, but rather with awe and understanding. They keenly observed that from destruction comes creation.
Rising out of this molten rock, eventually when it cools, are plants that provide habitat, provide shelter for some rare and incredible creatures found no place else on Earth.
Change, destruction, and creation. It is a cycle that propels our planet. To the north, in the area of the extinct Kohala volcano, stands the last great temple, Heiau in Hawaiian, to be raised in these islands. Visitors know it as Pu'ukohola Heiau National Historic Site. Even in the brilliant sunlight, it resembles a dark fortress. It was built under the supervision of architect priests. In times past, a high priest, called a kahuna, was almost as powerful as a king. The construction of this heiau was commanded by Kamehameha I. Mammoth stone platforms under roofs of thatch, an offering stand for gifts to the gods and goddesses of the Hawaiian pantheon. And here an oracle tower from which the high priest could see into the future. At the dedication of this heiau, which means sacred place of worship for the Hawaiians, 11 men were sacrificed to the god Ku. Even today, these are sacred kapu, taboo. This heiau is sacred to Hawaiians. Please respect their beliefs. Go no farther. Kapu, forbidden. Civil law in ancient Hawaiian society was an elaborate system of kapus. Many foods were kapu. For a commoner to touch the shadow of a noble was kapu. And the penalty for violating a kapu was death. If you were condemned, your only escape was to outrun, outrow, or outswim your executioners to a sacred refuge. The grandest of such refuges is the place of refuge, Pu'ukohola National Historical Park on Kona's Honau Bay. Situated on an outcrop of lava, the 6-acre park encompasses an L-shaped wall that is 1,000 feet long. This wall, over 500 years old, is a remarkable piece of masonry. No mortar was used. The rocks were precisely fitted. The remains of 3 heiau stand in this park. This one has been restored by the National Park Service. It is a mausoleum for bones of numerous high chiefs. In Hawaiian belief, these bones exude a sacred energy called mana, which renders the precincts a sanctuary. Not only were the breakers of kapu safe here, but defeated warriors and the refugees of war. Once a year, Hawaiians arrive for the Establishment Day Cultural Festival, with programs celebrating their ancient culture, their music, their arts. Herman gives us a little insight into this.
I'm responsible for the development of programs and curriculums. And over the past 16 years, we've worked with numerous of local school groups, the local education institutes, the private, and the universities and college. The 20th century Hawaiian has two worlds. The world of their traditional practices of their ancestors and the world of the modern world and concepts that we live in. The importance of this duality is to look at both worlds and to take the better of each.
Once a year, they march in solemn procession on grounds made sacred again by ancient chants. Once a year, these precincts are graced by the hula. Not the hula of the hotel luau's, but the sacred hula of the ancients. This sanctuary park, which was once a refuge for the condemned and the beaten, becomes the cultural refuge of the Hawaiian people. The deep-rooted nature of Hawaiian culture is shown in the belief in Pele. If not a belief, a healthy respect for what she stands for. Once on a fire binge, Pele destroys anything in her path. Forests, highways, new subdivisions. In 1880, Pele was on an eruption rampage. The town of Hilo lay innocently in the path of her lava flow. The old Hawaiians begged 63-year-old Princess Ruth, the 400-pound granddaughter of Kamehameha the Great, to save the city. Ruth didn't hesitate. She transported her tremendous bulk with all due speed to the rim of Kilauea caldera. There she offered Pele a bottle of good brandy, for which the goddess has a weakness. Pele was appeased, Hilo was saved, the lava flow halted at the town's door. The first haoles to come to these islands were greeted in a spirit of welcome, of warmth, of loving. Called in Hawaiian, aloha. As Hawaiians learned new ways, their old ways were suppressed. Their dance, their music, their way of life. They were taught that what was Hawaiian was shameful. Of Hawaiiana was brought out only for tourists. What had once been sacred rituals became show routines. Today, after 200 years of decline, there is a revival of the authentic Hawaiian culture. A renaissance. Now Hawaiians take as much pride in the day honoring King Kamehameha as they do in the 4th of July. and revel in the joys of the Merry Monarch Festival. The values of the old rural lifestyle are being renewed. Ancient crafts are revived. Racing outriggers, canoes first designed by the ancients, is today's sport of choice. Artists are probing the Hawaiian spirit to inspire and delight in contemporary painting. The hula has been restored to its nobility as a dance expressing the mythic origins of a people. There is a new respect for folk medicines and for the ways of the kahunas, the Hawaiian priests of old. Again, the Hawaiian language is being taught to the young. There is among the Hawaiians a revived spirit of graciousness and love and warmth. The spirit of aloha, may it thrive.